Hello and welcome back to the In Your Mind podcast. You're with Kiz and Brendan.
Hello, welcome back.
He's making a really funny face right now. So today I was thinking we should talk about meditation and visualization because it's something that is a part of our lives and rituals at the moment. And we think they're pretty beneficial. Well, I think they're pretty beneficial and useful tools to learn and understand a bit. So we'll start off with what is meditation? So for me, I believe that meditation is a practice of complete awareness and viewing objects and thoughts as they come into consciousness and not attaching anything to them, really. So this could look like hearing birds chirping, feeling the sensation of the ground that you're sitting on, all these things arising and having an expanded view of everything going on, but not attaching to any one sensation. But obviously there's lots of different types of meditation, and you can use a focus or an anchor in your practice to kind of remain present and remain just in consciousness and not in thought. So using the breath or something as a tool of focusing your attention on if you are becoming distracted. Yeah. And what would you say visualization is?
It's imagination. If you ask me what I was doing when I'm visualizing, I'm just imagining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you think visualization is different from meditation? And I'll ask you that because you have a lot more experience with visualization than I do. So maybe would have a better understanding of the differences between them.
Well, I don't know that much about meditation, but visualization is really just about, for me, just abandoning this reality altogether and creating a new one in your mind. I mean, meditation is kind of like that in a sense. But you're stepping back instead of stepping in.
Yeah, definitely. You're doing less rather than doing more. It's not a creative state, it's just a being state, meditation.
Yeah.
And I think there are different meditations you can do where you combine visualization and meditation and you have some sort of future or imaginative scene of something and you focus on that, and that's kind of the focus of a meditation. But that's not something that I've tried before, but I know that is a thing.
How do you think it's different?
I've only done visualization a couple times, but I think it's really the emphasis on visualization being a creative act and very exploration. And as you said, you're trying to focus on things that aren't yet even in reality. Whereas meditation, you're so focused on reality and consciousness and the here and the now and what is happening in every single moment, and having this blanket of awareness of everything that's arising and falling and not attaching to any of it. So I think it's different because there's no attachment in meditation, whereas visualization, you're constantly creating and imagining and grabbing and grasping onto thoughts. So how did you come across visualization then, and why did you kind of start doing it?
The beginning was probably in year 10 when I first learned about the law of attraction and manifestation and quantum mechanics.
That's early.
Is it?
Yeah, year 10.
That's when it began.
The concepts.
Yeah.
Right, wow.
Yeah. I began to learn about these things, and really it was quite intuitive for me, these concepts and how to actually put them into practice through visualization. It's just a tool, and it's part of the recipe.
The recipe for what?
Creating the future that you want.
So then how would you say it's different to like manifesting, or is it the same thing?
It's a tool to manifest.
Yeah.
It's part of the recipe.
Yeah.
Visualization is half of it, I would say.
Mm.
And then going out into reality and doing things, doing the work is the other half.
Mm. Like actionable steps kind of,
Yeah.
or things that you've seen that will help you get to that next spot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When did you first learn about meditation?
I think, honestly, it was through yoga in high school. Was like my first glimmer into meditation, because it was kind of at the end or before practices. They would do a lot of guided breathing and bring up the concept of like meditation. And that was really my first glimpse into it. I thought it was interesting and relaxing, but I didn't really see a need for it at the time. And then again, I heard of it and was a bit inquisitive when I would see a psychologist, and she would talk about mindfulness and trying to be mindful. And it was kind of similar to meditation in that way of just like viewing things and not attaching to them. But I didn't really have like a set practice or anything at that time. It was just something I like dabbled in, and same like a couple years after that, like would do it every now and again, would try like different methods. Wasn't fully into it yet.
So meditation is the practice of mindfulness.
Yes, that's what Sam Harris, like, he's a philosopher. He's also a scientist as well, but he has a lot of experience with meditation, has been meditating for like 20 years, and he does mindfulness meditation. I'm not exactly sure with like the distinctions of meditation. Like there's lots of different types and they all come from different sources, but at the core are really just focused on awareness and being conscious without attaching to anything. Yeah. And mindfulness comes into that. But I only really became like drawn into trying meditation when I felt like I needed to quiet my mind. Like that was what I was seeking, and I didn't know that the meditation is what I wanted to do. It was just a tool that enabled me to quiet my mind and like understand kind of where I was at and what I was feeling and what was arising. That drew me into it. Yeah. And what drew you into visualization now? Like learning about it as a younger boy.
Now, as a younger boy.
Learning about it like as a teenager.
Yeah.
And then from that compared to now, like why is it a part of your practice now?
I just have really big goals. And the way I grew up, I didn't see much physical evidence, or I wasn't surrounded by the people who had achieved those goals. And if you don't know what the destination looks like, you can never get there. Like you don't know what you're going towards or what you're searching for. It's like getting in your car and driving around. You don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
Like you might end up in a place where you want to be, or you might not, you know. So it's like I always had these goals and a plan, and that was just a way of having my mind become familiar with it. Once you have a clear destination in mind, then it's a lot easier to break down the steps backwards and to see where you need to go from where you are.
So you were kind of creating something you looked up towards because there was no like representation of who you wanted to be or where you wanted to be. Like that wasn't around in your physical environment. So internally creating like a image.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And so how has it then evolved from that time to now?
now it's a very deliberate part of my life. Has it been something you've ever thought about doing?
I think it's interesting because it was something I would naturally do before going to bed as a kid and even as a teenager. It was like planning out situations that I wanted to happen or like things I wanted to do. It was kind of like my creative time. And really it was visualization because I would try and bring in as much sensory information into like my imagination of the future. But I didn't really know what it was. I was really curious by it. And I was like, I wonder if everybody does this, like what this is. But there wasn't really, like I'd never heard of it up until really recently, like really since I met you. But it was brought to me like as a child. I think it would have been cool to nourish that from when that seed just flourished on its own. But for that reason, it definitely intrigues me and I definitely am getting excited like talking about it and thinking how it can be really beneficial and you can really plan out how you want things to go and what you really want in the future. Yeah, so it definitely intrigues me. I think now that I have a meditation practice, I'm kind of in a bit of like I'm not sure whether it's of benefit to add that as well, but like it's so different, like as we've kind of explained and like said the differences, that I think I could really get a lot out of the visualization because it's a creative act. It's not just like simply calming your mind and like just being consciousness itself. Like it's...
I think meditation is a prerequisite to it. Yeah.
I reckon both would help the other immensely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like as a prerequisite, it would make sense that if you're lost in thought or if you're lost in like, not on task, the meditation teaches you to come back to like an anchor. Like for me, it's breath, or, you constantly keep coming back to like your visualization or the thing that you are focusing on at that time. So yeah, with visualization, is there something, how kind of do you go about choosing what you're going to visualize?
It kind of goes into what you were saying, meditation and visualization. They're both tools to unlock a state. Yeah. So it's really specific, like as specific as you can make it, because the more detail, the more sensory stimulus, the more enveloped and immersed in the experience you're creating, the better. So for me, it kind of switches around 3 or 4 things. And most of the time it's those 3 or 4 things I go through every session. And then sometimes it just depends on what's happened that day. Like if something I'm excited about could lead somewhere exciting and could lead to where I want to end up, then I would go down the rabbit hole, as you would say, and connect the dots between this opportunity and how it could lead me to where I want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very specific, and a lot of it is based off feeling because your emotions and your state are like so heavily linked.
So would you say then it's an intuitive thing to decide where you want to go on the day? Like it's not something you go, tomorrow I'm going to visualize my like career, or tomorrow I'm going to visualize like how I want my relationships to be with, with people.
Yeah, it's completely intuitive because I feel like for me at least, as soon as you start to pre-plan, then you sort of lose the source. Like if you just follow what you find exciting in the moment, you're going to best be able to create that situation. because you're most excited about it. And you can already feel that emotion or that feeling vividly, and you can create from there much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have like a couple of things that I fall back on if I like don't really feel anything in particular, but it's never pre-planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone is wanting to try visualization for the first time, what are some of the steps that you would suggest, or how would you suggest to visualize?
Pretty much all the same steps you would take to undergo a session of meditation. Before or after sleep directly is the best because your brain is in that relaxed state. So before bed is when I usually do it. And you mentioned you did it before bed when you were a kid as well. And that's not surprising because, I mean, I feel like a lot of people did that as kids and maybe still sometimes as adults, but often it's for things that we're not excited about.
Yeah, things what we're dreading.
That we're running through. Yeah. So that's another thing to be cautious of, like what you're thinking about before you go to bed.
Yeah. Well, because what you think and the thoughts and visions that are turning over in your head become programmed into your subconscious mind.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why people say, oh, like you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's because you have like their thoughts, their language, their views, like all of that is running through your brain subconsciously. So it's with meditation or, more with something like visualization or manifestation, that is really the key to programming your subconscious mind.
Yeah. And that's why so many people say just your phone is so toxic for you before you go to bed and as soon as you wake up because you're in the programmable state. Your subconscious mind is vulnerable. So instead of reaching for your phone, it's the perfect time to do these things.
Yeah.
But to go back to the question that you originally asked, it would be all the steps of meditation. So you would need to be in a quiet place where you're unlikely to be disturbed by anything. Preferably dark, because visualization for the most part is done with your eyes closed. I have a cute little, what do you call this? An eye mask?
Teddy bear.
A teddy bear eye mask with little ears on it. For the people on video, they can see that. A comfortable chair. I think it's important not to lay down or lean forward, I've found, because in visualization it's very active. And if you are too relaxed, I find for me at least, it's harder for me to get into the right state to be relaxed, but also like stay on task.
Create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have water nearby as well. That's always good because if you get thirsty, can't concentrate, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how long would you suggest?
I don't know, but I would lean towards more often but shorter sessions because you can stay focused and the repetition and keeping your mind fixed on the goal and more familiar with it if you keep revisiting it. It's like learning.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I do 10 minutes every day. You could do a 5-minute session in the morning, 5-minute session at night. That's probably a good idea too. Just try out a bunch of different stuff, whatever feels like works best for you. What would you suggest for people doing meditation for the first time?
Yeah. So I think sitting upright as well is beneficial because it just makes you in a more active state, like having to sit upright. Sitting on the floor, even in a chair, is good. And closing your eyes, I think that is really helpful at the start. You can learn and can do it with your eyes open, but it's harder to remain just in consciousness and just in awareness because you get lost in thought easier. There's more distractions around you. So if you start with your eyes closed, sitting, and just doing it for 10 minutes a day, because it's something that is easier to commit to. Like, it's only 10 minutes. And previously, I have done longer sessions, like 40 minutes or 20 minutes, and it's good and you can really get into it, but it's harder to stay consistent with it. Yeah, like you, I think just for sake of it being a ritual or practice in your life every day, 10 minutes is really achievable. Yeah, and there's many different types of meditation, as we've kind of touched on, but I think a meditation that focuses on the breath, so even on YouTube, I would just do like a 10-minute breath focus meditation and type that up to start with. And then if you're getting into it and want to kind of explore more, there's a introductory course on the Waking Up app by Sam Harris, and it's like 30 days free, and you basically go through the steps and he tells you what to focus on and why, and he kind of helps you run through it. I think that's pretty good if you are kind of intimidated or not really sure how to go about it. It's really helpful because it's quite supportive. Yeah, so that's kind of what I would recommend.
I think we kind of skipped over, like, what's the point of meditation? Like, why do you do it?
It makes me feel calmer and it makes me feel relaxed and just brings my attention back to not identifying or not like being caught up in negative thoughts or emotions. It allows me to view them and decide whether I want to go into them or not. Or if I do spiral down a thought, understand that that is something that I'm doing. It really just cultivates awareness in your actions, and calms your body. Yeah, I think that's the main thing, is like the calming aspect, and sitting in that more often just naturally allows you to be calmer throughout your day and to pause and to kind of reset.
You mentioned it was a tool before. So you would say it's a tool for achieving peace?
I don't know if I would say peace. I would say, because it's not always peaceful, like sometimes it's frustrating and you don't want to be sitting there in that one spot and it's hard. But it definitely is calming. It's definitely calming, calms the body and forces your mind to relax.